Okay, so let's start. Last time. Okay, start from here. The second tale takes place in the same year, when the crown prince was 17. Legend has it that, south of the Yellow River, there was a bridge called Yi Nian. Upon this bridge was a ghost that had been lingering for years. This ghost was exceedingly fearsome. Thus clad in broken armor, the flames of hell blazed beneath his feet. And his body was covered in blood and pierced by all manner of sharp weapons. Every step it took, he left behind a footprint of blood and fire. Every few years, it would suddenly appear at night and wander back and forth at the head of the bridge, blocking travelers to ask them three questions. What is this place? Who am I? What is it to be done? The ghost would then devour whoever answered incorrectly. However, no one knew what the correct answers were. As the years went by, this ghost devoured countless travelers. During his ascetic travel, the crown prince caught word of this. So he set out and found Enian Bridge and stood guard there night after night, until, finally, one night, he met the haunting ghost. When the ghost appeared, it was indeed as horrifying as the legend said. It asked the crown prince the first question and answered with a smile. This place is the human world. However, the ghost replied, this place is the abyss. An auspicious start. The first answer was already incorrect. Well, all three answers are going to be wrong anyway, the crown prince thought. So why should I wait till you're done? So he pulled out his weapon and launched. The fight was complete chaos. The crown prince was skilled in martial arts, but the ghost was terrifying and dauntless. Men and ghosts fought so hard that the sun and moon began to topple. In the end, the ghost was finally defeated. After the ghost vanished, the crown prince planted a flowering tree at the head of the bridge, and he did so. A cultivator passed by and happened to see him sprinkle a handful of dirt to consecrate the grave and send the ghost off. What is this? He asked. And thus the crown prince replied with his now famous line, body in the abyss, heart in paradise. When the cultivator heard this, he gave a light smile and then transformed into a divine warrior clad in white armor, with auspicious clouds beneath his feet. Then he drew in the wind and rolled off in holy light. Only then did the crown prince realize that he had just encountered the heavenly emperor, who had personally descended the mortal realm to subdue evil. The deities had already taken notice of this exceedingly outstanding since his time in the Shangan Heavenly Ceremony session. After the meeting at Enian Bridge, they asked the Heavenly Emperor, how does my lord find this Royal Highness? The Emperor answered, this child's future is infinite. Thank you for listening. Let's keep reading. The night, a celestial phenomenon manifested in the skies about the palace. The storm raged. Amidst the flashes of lightning and the roars of thunder, the crown prince ascended. Whenever a mortal ascended, the heavenly realm always shook. When the crown prince ascended, the entire heavenly realm quickened outright with 3 times the normal tremors. Achieving fruitful cultivation was always far too difficult. It required talent, talent, training, and luck. It was also often a long road of 100 years for a god to be born. It was not that there were no fortunate souls who became deities at a young age. However, the majority who tried exhausted their entire lives, trained for 100 years, and still had no heavenly tribulations dawn upon them. Even if they did come to face a heavenly tribulation, should they fail the trial, they would die or be ruined if they managed to survive. Those who made the attempt were numerous as the sands of Ganges, but most were simply ignored, ignoring mortals who would spend their entire lives as nothing more than ordinary, never finding their own paths. Thank you, guys. Welcome. My name is Leon, the Chinese. 我是中国人，来自中国，土生土长的中国人。听说大家很喜欢《天官赐福》这本书，我用英文给大家读一下。I'm gonna read it in English. I'm from China. I heard that, and I like this story very much, so I would like to present the story by reading. Thank you for listening. Yet this royal highness was no doubt the darling of the heavens. Whatever he wanted, he received. Whatever he wanted to do, he succeeded. He wanted to ascend and become a god. So at the age of 17, he did just that. That always led the hearts of the people, and the king and queen loved and missed him dearly. So to honor their son, the king ordered great temples and shrines to be built across the land for the status of the crown prince to be entered and worshipped by all. The more believers there were amidst, the more temples were constructed. That meant the crown prince's life would be more prolonged and his spiritual powers would grow more powerful. Thus, in a few short years, the Xianle palace of the crown prince became incomparably glorious, and for a time, its prosperity and splendor reached its peak. Welcome, Sammy. So, I started the live stream today to record or to read some part of the story. Yeah, it's okay. I'm very glad to read the stories, and hopefully, people are gonna listen to me reading. I'm a Chinese, so English is not my native language, so I'm trying my best to read as best as possible. Until 3 years later, when Xianle fell into chaos. The cause of the chaos was tyranny, with rebels rising in revolt. However, while the flames of war were set ablaze all over the mortal world, the deities of the heavenly realm could not easily intervene. Their concerns were ghosts, monsters, and demons that encroached on the borders. Whatever fell outside of those perimeters had to be left to its own devices. Think about it. Conflicts were everywhere in the mortal realm, and everyone believed they were justified. So if any god were to stick a foot in, today it would back your former kingdom, tomorrow another would avenge his descendants. Thus, would there not be gods who wanted to fight each other all the time would fall into a life of disgrace. That was why the crown prince needed to keep his distance, but he did not care for that reasoning in the least. He said to the heavenly emperor, I will save the common people. The heavenly emperor possessed 1,000 years of divine power, but even he did not care, dare let those words hang off his lips. When he heard this, it was easy to imagine how he felt. Yet he could not do anything to stop the crown prince. So he said, You cannot save everyone. I can, the crown prince declared. Thus he descended to the mortal realm without looking back. Naturally, the whole nation of Xianle rejoiced. However, ever since ancient times, there had been one truth that people always spoke in the human world. There would never be a good outcome when gods descended to the mortal realm without permission. And so, not only were the flames of war not extinguished, they blazed even wilder. Okay, but I believe this is the time when North and South Americans are asleep, right? So it's all right. The recordings will be presented, so they're gonna hear me reading this part. So yeah, that's why I chose to do live streams because I can do two things at the same time: live stream, and also I can record the live streams so that more people can hear me reading. All right. It was not to say the crown prince did not try, but it would have been better had he not intervened at all. The harder he worked, the more of a mess the war became. The people of Xianle were devastatingly battered and crushed, the wounded and casualties innumerable. And in the end, a plague swept through the entire imperial capital. A rebel army broke through the palace and ended the war. If it was said that Qianle was originally hanging on by a thread, then the crown prince came and cut it directly. After the kingdom fell, the people finally came to realize one thing: the crown prince they worshipped as a god was never as perfect or strong as they imagined. To speak harshly, was he not just useless trash who could not do anything right? Without anywhere to vent the anguish and pain of losing their homes and families, the battered people furiously poured into the palaces of Crown Prince, toppled his divine statues, and burned down the divine temples. 8,000 temples burned for 7 days and 7 nights, burned until there was nothing left. From that moment on, the martial god who protected peace and safety vanished, and a god of misfortune who brought disasters was born. When the people call you a god, you're a god. If they call you a crab, you're a crab. You are whatever they say you are. It always been thus. The crown prince could absolutely not accept this reality, and he had an even harder time accepting the punishment he received for his transgressions: banishment. Yeah, that's true. When I was a junior high school student, I thought about the definition of being a hero. And then I came to a conclusion that a hero is someone who sacrifices himself or herself for the greater good of many. But the sacrifice itself might not be useful or workable or understandable. So you can't make everyone like you or understand you. Um, don't need to mention we are not able to succeed in anything that we want to do because it's just the truth. So for my point, in my view, I think in the history or in people's stories, at the end of the day, the truth is whether a person weigh others' interests more than his or her own. So that will make a difference. If a person weighs other people's value more than his or herself, himself or herself, I think that is a good person. No matter what he did and how he did, at least he or she tried. But the outcome, sometimes it is decided by many factors. But at least he or she tried. So we're not able to blame too hard, because how would we blame a person who has tried, right? His spiritual powers were sealed, and he was knocked back down to the mortal realm. He had grown up endlessly cuddled and pampered. He had never tasted the suffering of the human world before. Yet this punishment hurled him from the clouds down into the mud. And in this mud, for the first time, he understood the taste of hunger, poverty, and filth. This was also the first time that he did things he never thought he would do willingly. He stole, he robbed, he cursed loudly, and he gave up on himself. He lost all dignity, no self esteem remained, and it was in as unkempt as one could be. Even his most loyal servants could not accept this change in him and chose to leave. A body in the abyss, heart in paradise. This phrase had been engraved on stone monuments and plaques everywhere in Xianle. If not for the war that had burned almost all of the kingdom to the ground, if the crown prince were to see the remnants of those words, he would probably be the first to rush to destroy what was left. Thank you for listening, and I need to drink a little water. Thank you so much. So, yeah, I hope you guys like what I read. Since I come to this platform not long ago, I hope more people are going to enjoy what they like to listen to, and I hope more people will find us if they're interested. Okay, let's continue. The person who had said those words had personally proven that when the body was in the abyss, the heart could not be in the paradise. He ascended to the heavens quickly, but his fall from grace was even faster. That all inspiring impression, that the grand avenue of divine might, the evil he met at the Indian Bridge, it all seemed as if it were only yesterday. And heavenly realm merely sighed for a while before letting go of what was past. Until one day, many years later, a huge rumble thundered from the sky. The Royal Highness ascended for the second time. Again, I've said something like a true hero is a person who spares a life. Yeah. Um, like I said, and like Gandalf said, right? To put others' interests above him or herself, and to fight for it, and to sacrifice in order to make other people happy, in order to protect other people. That is a great endeavor. Not to take from other people, but to give. I think that is a true quality. Throughout history, heavenly officials were banished, either never regained their glory or fell into the ghost realm. It was rare to turn over a new leaf after banishment. The second ascension was truly grand and spectacular. What was even more spectacular was that, after he ascended, he charged all the way into the heavenly realm and rampaged in full fury. Thus, he had only been ascended for the span of one instant's time before he was knocked back down again. One instant's time. It could be considered the swiftest and shortest ascension in history. If the first ascension could not be considered a beautiful tale, then the second ascension was a farce. Having been banished twice, the heavenly realm looked upon this crown prince with full contempt. And in that contempt, there was caution. After all, he was already threatening and on edge after the first banishment, now that he had been banished twice. Would he not go berserk and take his revenge on the world? And who knows? After being banished this time, he did not go berserk and even adjusted earnestly to banish life. There were no issues at all. And the only problem was that maybe he was taking things a little too seriously. Sometimes he would busk at the end of the street, expertly playing any instrument and singing any songs, and even shattered boulders on his chest as part of his act. While there had long been word that this Royal Highness could sing and dance, was a master of many talents. It was unbelievable to witness all his talents in such a fashion, truly inspiring complicated feelings in anyone who saw. Sometimes would diligently and humbly collect scraps. The deities were shocked to their cores. It was unthinkable that things would reach this point, where now, if one was to say, "Son, you gave birth to the crown prince of Shanle," would be a curse more malicious, malicious than may you die without sons. Was once the noble and gracious crown prince, a heavenly official who was part of the divine ranks, but in truth, no one else had ever screwed up so badly. And so, this was the story of the man who was known as the laughingstock of the three realms. After laughing, those who are more sentimental might also sigh. The darling of the heavens, who once stood at such a height, had truly and thoroughly vanished. Divine statues collapsed, a native kingdom was destroyed, and not a single believer remained. Gradually, he was forgotten by the world, thus no one knew where he had drifted afterward. It was really a great shame to the banished ones. No one would be able to get back after being banished twice. The lanterns of everlasting light shuddered. The firelights danced in fury, and all the heavenly officials inside their golden palaces jolted awake, every one of them running out to ask each other, which new dignitary has ascended such a grandiose entrance? Yet who knew? They claim in wonder the first second, but in the next, all the deities of heavens were thunderstruck. Weren't you done? That infamous weirdo, the laughingstock of the three realms, the legendary royal highness, the crown prince. He, he, he fucking ascended again. Uh, oh, I think I skipped a page. Sorry. So um let's continue from the page that was missed because I clicked too fast. I suppose maybe. Sometimes you busk at the end of the street. Oh, I read this page. It's really. Oh, I see. I missed this sentence. Many more years passed. Suddenly, one day, there was another huge rumble in the sky. The heavens fell and the earth cracked, the ground trembled and the mountains shook. The lanterns of the everlasting light shuddered, the firelights danced in fury, and all the heavenly officials inside their golden palaces jolted awake, every one of them running out to ask each other, which new dignitary has ascended such a grandiose entrance? Yet who knew? They had exclaimed in wonder the first second, but in next All the deities of heaven were thunderstruck. Weren't you done? That infamous weirdo, the laughing stock of the three realms, the legendary Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, he he fucking ascended again. Yeah, so we can sort of, edit the first time I read this part because I kind of skipped just one paragraph. All right. So that's the end of chapter 1. I'm very related to the story every time I read this. Um, the courage and the valor is always one thing that I admire because I don't like cowards. I mean, I only admire those people who are brave enough to stand up, to try again, to stand up, not giving up, to stand up and to work harder and to stand up against the enemies, the ones who don't approve him or her. I always admire those people. And also, I try to be that kind of people to never give up if there's a hope. And whenever there's a chance that I could do something, you know, for the good of many, I would do it. Because I think life is long, but we can say life is short. So for me, I think the most important thing is that we find the purpose of our life and pursue that. Oh, am I able to say that word? Because it's there. I mean, I want to be loyal to the context. So I will read the original context. I mean, yeah. Back to what I was saying. Um, yeah, we only have one life, and we have to understand who we are and what we want to do, and we should have faith, and we should know that, and we should keep doing that, and then we should say that in this short life or in this long life, we found our purpose and we succeeded in trying to reach that goal to finish that purpose. So, and that is a life for me that is not regrettable. I will not be regretted if I have tried my best to do what I think to be meaningful and valuable. All right, so that's the end of the first chapter. Um, I'm going to be reading later. I'm going to be live streaming later. So be sure to have your bell icon on so that I can receive my notifications and check my community post so that you know when I am going to live stream. And thank you guys for liking, and be sure to like and to share and to let more people to know about me. And I'm very glad to know more about you. And I hope more people will come and enjoy my performance about reading novels, reading poems, doing impressions, even singing. I'm a full time live streamer in China for 11 years. Okay, so that's very much for today's live stream. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Stay healthy, stay happy. See ya.